So what is Estes Group's best practice? Well, it's actually a trifecta that we like to work with. Number one is what we call our peak methodology, and it's made up of 5 stages: prepare, educate, architect, validate, and stabilize. On top of that, we want to get to know your business well enough that we can put together the statement of work in a way that has your North Star principles and all of the critical success factors that you're looking for encompassed in that statement of work so that we're all going to the same common goal. And then the third leg of that is, as partners with major ERP practices out there, we're able to leverage not only our own experience, but all of the experiences of those other ERP partners out there. So we can bring to you a great range of product offerings and consulting expertise to make sure you get the best experience you can around your ERP implementation. What are the Estes Group differentiators? Well, number one, we have 100% certified senior staff. They've all had industry experience, but on top of that, we have a higher percent certified to the highest level of the ERP systems than even the publishers themselves. So that's something that we take a lot of pride in, is the continuous education of our people to make sure that they're bringing the best and most current knowledge to your company. On top of that, we offer project transparency. So we use online tools and reports that you can see real time what's happening in your project. Risks, changes, additional milestones that are there, timeline, slippage, and what your budget to actual is at any point in time. So you always see what's going on, and we don't hide anything from you, the client. We also have a process-driven methodology. So we want to focus on your business processes and what makes your core competencies unique to your organization. And then we fit the ERP package to what your business requirements are. And we use an agile method to make sure that we do that, so that as we're cycling through, any changes that we have, we are going to also test to make sure that they don't impact something on the front or the back end. And finally, we want to partner with you. We really do treat our clients like a partnership. To us, the implementation is just the starting point. We want to be there to make your business run better. And to do that, we have to partner with you. We have to get to know you, your business, and your goals. And from there, we can help you move forward. So how do we break that down in our methodology? The first stage of that is the prepare stage. And in some ways, you're already starting that right now by watching this video. What then happens as we engage in the business process review is we start to understand your critical success factors and what you need to be successful. That creates our project scope and the foundation of your ERP project. So that leads us into the next stage of our project, which is the education stage. At this stage, we want to move through it very quickly because we want to get you building your ERP system, but we have to level set the terminology and the vocabulary that both sides are using. And oftentimes there's a gap between those two. So here what we do is we want to be able to come in, take a small example of your processes from sales through production, distribution, inventory management, and as well your finances. And we just want to whiteboard those out and then walk you through some examples in your new ERP software. And what that does for you is it gives you and your team a great chance to see everything that's going on and start to see your customers, your part numbers, your vendors actually transacting in the system. We find that this process is so much more effective than teaching you how to build a Big Mac using an ERP system. Once we finish up with education, which typically only takes a couple of weeks, we want to get right into the architecture. And what we're going to do here is we're really doing the proof of concept. So we're building out your full database. We're starting this thing from scratch. But the difference is that what we do compared to a lot of others, we don't use converted data at this time point. We want to use your business process and let that be our guiding principle. And then when we have that built up in the system and we're testing your processes, now we know if we have something that kicks out an unexpected result, it's process driven. It's not data driven or a conversion issue. So we're working through that. And at the end of the architecture stage, where we want you at is at a stage where you could go live. So that means your reports that you're going to need on day one are already developed in the system. Your dashboards are there. All of your processes, including documenting your end user procedures, they're already built. So at the end of this stage, you're basically ready. And then as we move you to the next stage, which is validate, now what we're going to do is make you prove that. So we're going to sit you down and run through multiple conference room pilots and an acceptance test. In the conference room pilot, you take all those processes that you did, but now we're going to do a mock go live. So instead of just doing something where it's very controlled, we're going to grab a week's worth of transactions loaded up in the system. So now you have some starting point transactions that aren't in there yet. We have some that are midstream. You have some that are near at the end. You have others that might be a mess, and you have to go figure out what the problem is. That's real world, and we want you to run through that type of a real world exercise before you actually pull the trigger and go live. So if you go through all of those steps, then it only makes sense that the final stage of our project plan is called stabilize. And we call it stabilize because it shouldn't feel like a major event. Go live does occur here, but you've run through all of your paces in the prior steps. So at this stage of the project, you're making that natural transition to where everybody's now using the software and you're now live on your new ERP system. So we want to be in there and we want to help you. We're still there to handhold you and make sure that things go smoothly. And we even come back in for that first fiscal close to make sure that you close the books and get your final financial reports out smoothly and that you're ready to continuously run with the system from there. And then we want to do a project review. What are the next steps? What are the things that we can now start to jump into and take on for process improvement? So those are very important steps to us in that project plan and methodology. Now, as we shift gears a little bit, what does it take from a project team standpoint on both our side and your side to make sure that this is successful? So number one, we want to make sure that from our side, we have involvement all the way up to our Vice President of Professional Services. I can summarize the responsibilities here as very simple. They're there to make sure you are a customer reference to the Estes Group. We want your project experience to be so good that you go out and tell all of your peers about what a great experience you had and how we took the pain out of the ERP process for you and how we were able to improve your business and break down those growth barriers that you may have been experiencing. So as we have our VP of Professional Services there and understanding that as their core responsibility, we now have an Estes Group project manager that's going to be assigned to your account as well. That project manager is there to work with you guys, and their biggest responsibility is to make sure that you're always multiple steps ahead of the game. You need to know what's coming down the pipe next. They're there to teach you that. They're there to teach you how to use peak methodology and the tools and everything else so that you guys are always ready for everything that's coming down and nothing comes as a surprise. That way you're always prepared for the next step, and our consulting team is always prepared and marching to the same direction that our project manager is setting. Now, when we get to our core team, those are the people, they're driven by working with you. They're there and driven by the problems and the puzzles and those kinds of things that you have in your day-to-day processes. These folks, what really makes them get up every day is being able to come in and model out that process and then make that work in your ERP product in a way that supports your competitive advantages and supports your business in the way that you want it to work. So on your side, we need to make sure that you have a very well-informed and active project sponsor. Our best success stories always start here. If you don't have somebody on that executive level, CFO, CEO, president, that is really engaging in this ERP project and doesn't just look at it as some, sort of necessary expenditure to the business, they have to understand what the changes are that you're expecting to get out of this ERP project. Otherwise, if it doesn't come from that level, it trickles down to the rest of the organization and nobody has the right tone set to support this. So that ERP project sponsor is now going to chair the steering committee. So the steering committee is usually made up of your C-level execs or even your vice president levels that are going to be sitting in at this level. These folks are there to making sure that all of the department resources have adequate time, adequate resources, that they are there to help define the scope and the future vision of what the company needs out of this ERP implementation. It's also at this level that any conflict will come up to this point. If there's anything out of scope, it comes to the steering committee for a vote. If there's anything where the resources don't have time or the Estes Group side doesn't have what we need from you, it comes to the steering committee to make sure resolution can occur. So this team is very important to making sure that the project continuously drives forward, and we like to see the steering committee stay active in this project. Sit in on the meetings. Come in and see how the process design is going. Know what's going on in your business because this is shaping your future. And if you're not a part of the shaping, you're going to be reacting to it behind the scenes, and that's never a formula for success. Your project manager, this person is going to have a lot on their plate. They are herding all of the different activities that are going on a daily basis throughout the project. So they're always directing who needs education, what and where, what processes are being done, what are the predecessors that need to occur, and they're making sure that they're working with our project manager to be able to set that tone and set the schedule and making sure that everybody adheres to it. When we work with you, we'll sit there and we'll plan out and we'll work through processes, but we'll leave you with homework where you need to test and prove out those processes to make sure they are what you need. And then you document those processes. And that saves you time and money and expense from the Estes Group side of things, and it helps you guys adopt and accept the project as you own it. So your project manager is making sure that as homework is due, they're checking in on that and they're making sure it's done on time and with a level of quality that's going to support the purpose of what that homework activity was doing. Now, your customer core team, these are the folks that are typically your unit managers, your line managers, your subject matter experts, team experts, those kinds of folks that are out there and helping run the business on a day-to-day basis. These are the folks that are going to sit down and work directly with the Estes Group experts, your operations consultant, your financial consultant, and you're going to develop what the future state of your processes, both on the business floor level and on your ERP level, and what those need to look like as you start to move forward. So these people need to understand what that future state vision is for your organization, and they need to be in line with that so that they can support and drive that forward as they redefine and redesign these processes in your ERP system. So how do we organize all of this? Well, we have a few tools of the trade to be able to help us with that. And number one, we use what's called a project initiation document, or a PID. That project initiation document, the best way to kind of think about it, it's a scope on steroids. We want to define in there not only what your critical success factors are and what the scope is and the timeline and that stuff, but we also want to make sure we identify who is responsible for what. So what are the roles and responsibilities? What's the milestone plan? What's the education plan? And what are we going to do as far as how this whole project's going to move forward? And including what are the risk assessments that we might be up against? Are we going to have enough of Joe's time to be able to come in and work with the project team? Do we need to start mitigating that risk now? So all of this is defined in the initiation doc so that if we do have anything that impacts this, it can impact everything else in the project, timeline, budget, you name it. So we want to make sure it's all encompassing in this one place. On top of that, we also make sure that our project planning and our project metrics are 100% transparent to you. So with that, we use an online-based project management software. And with that, you can see an example here of exactly what type of metrics you'll be able to see real time on your project. So in the top part of this, you can see here that we've got red, yellow, green analysis of exactly what are the key 5 metrics there on your project. Basically on time and on budget are the 2 that a lot of folks are really going to look at, but also change, risk, those kinds of things. We want to understand how many of those events are occurring around your project, because as those start to grow, that issues list continues to grow. Well, we have more things that need to be tackled. And that means that decisions aren't being made because we have more issues to deal with. So we want to make sure we understand all of those key metrics, and you can see this stuff real time at any point in time online. And then the final piece of that, you guys are all recognizing what a Gantt chart and those things look like out of Microsoft Project. Well, that will explode out and show you step by step everything that needs to be done on your particular activity list. And then you can plan that out, role assign it, everything else that you might need to do, and you get full access to this just as we do. So with that, that's the Estes way. That's how we work and how we engage with you on your project. So definitely reach out. Give us a call. I'd love to talk with you about how we can walk you through the Estes way and how that can improve your business and your bottom line.